like, this is too much?
This is too much. I sort of maintain. This is the thing, because I have situations where like I haven't spoken to some people in a while because I just lose time or some shit, you know. So it's difficult. I know what you mean. I think I just have to be very mindful of like if the other person was like talking to me a lot and I was doing it was back and forth. Like let's say the person was like, oh, let's meet up. That's great. And then if I do the same, then it's good. But if I don't see a relationship where it's like mutual beneficial, like someone reached out to me like let's hang out, it's all just fades. You know what I mean? So that's how I sort of manage in terms of like not seeing everyone, because everyone's got boundaries, right? I can't like spend loads of times with people. You know? I can't connect with everyone. So that's how I sort of make sure like I'm not connecting with like a billion people. Because if I connect, because if all of us connect to a billion people, we're exhausted.
That makes perfect sense. So I have so that's a great answer as well, and I think for me, and you helped me figure out my answer while you was talking about it, which is it's around unconditional connection. Meaning like, so if I really connect with you and I like you as a person, then I'm just going to be unconditional towards you, meaning that I might not reach out to you because I have so many people to reach out to. However, whenever you reach out to me, I'm like, I've got nothing but love for you, and it's always going to be the same energy.
Well, totally. And then the thing
is, I think that's one way of countering that, right? It's like getting people to reach out to you, which is not about being that person that people reach out to, but just more about I can't reach out to everyone.
I also feel like some of my best relationships, like if that's friendships or even like romantic relationships, I feel like the best are when I don't have to connect with you all the time. Sometimes if I haven't spoken to you in like 3 months, I'm like, oh, let's grab a drink, and the energy's still there, like everything's still there. That to me is the best kind of friendships, the best kind of relationships.
You're continuing where you left off. That's the relationship I have with Sammy. Like Sammy, we don't talk every. Sammy's like the best one, like even better than Leo. Sorry, bro. Look how heartbroken he is. In a bit. But not like we maybe speak once every week, maybe once a month. Like there's been times where we haven't spoken for like several months.
Of course.
And this is my best friend, innit?
Yeah.
But whenever we talk again, it's not like it obviously is there's a maintenance of energy, but it's like we just never left.
Oh yeah, totally.
We just continue where we left off as if there was no time gap, because time is relative. For us, there is no time gap. It's not like, oh, we need to catch up and I miss you, bro. No, it's like, okay, next, continue with the jokes, continue with the things. It's where do we leave off?
Oh, completely. I also have like mates who I've been friends. I have like 3 mates in particular in my mind who I'm like mates since like secondary school, and we've been friends for like, I don't know, like 8-10 years. Even if we go through like university, jobs, relationships, breakups, whatever the hell it is, we're still great mates, because I feel like we've got that. Every time we sort of meet, it's just like, I feel, again, it goes back to the idea of like gaining energy rather than removing energy. Like I'd rather stay with people who I feel empowered, I feel gained. And even people who generally call me out on stuff as well. Like you need to have mates who, yes, will sort of say to you, yo, I love what you're doing with the podcast. I love what you're doing with that project. I love what you're doing trying to get that job. Whatever the hell it is, people need to also call you out and stuff. Because 100%. You know, luckily I've had mates who have like, I'll be honest, I went, let's say I went on like a night out, I spent too much time trying to chat to a girl. The mates are like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? You kind of need that accountability. So it's finding, and I think for my life as well, like maybe you've had the same thing where those who you surround with are like, determine where you're going in terms of your life, in terms of your trajectory as well. Because I feel like, you know, this whole Instagram self-help quote, like whoever you surround yourself, like 4 people you surround yourself determines your future, which I know the self-help stuff is like, sometimes it can be very like unpractical, but that quote to me is like so important, because I feel like in my life and maybe your life, it's like those who you surround with can really help where you go to. So I don't know, do you have that with yourself as well?
No, I agree with that. I think, so I have a different way of looking at it. I think I look at people as like an experience.
Sure.
So you're an experience, another person an experience. It's like, what experience do you want to be around? And you know, what experience are you going to be consuming, which is going to affect how you become as well, you know? So I think I look at people as an experience.
Interesting. What do you mean by that? Like experience?
So for instance, like whatever conversation we're having, and whatever you're saying to me, or the way you know you're around me, like you're an experience. I get to experience you as a person, right? You get to experience me. Gotcha. So it's like what is the experience that, you know, I want to surround myself with? So then I kind of look at people like, what experience is this person providing? You know, not in a kind of like in a negative way. It's just more like, it's empowering to go like, actually, this person brings that experience.
Sure.
And that's like a beautiful way of looking at it. And then,
and would you say, I feel like I'm becoming the host there, but it happens.
No, bro. Listen, there is no host. There is no.
That's good. Oh, fantastic.
This is your podcast.
Okay. I know what you mean. Actually, do you then surround yourself then? Because that's an interesting thought. Where you surround yourself with people who. Do you surround yourself with people who give you different experiences then, or do you surround yourself with similar?
Yeah, so I guess I kind of like, so I don't necessarily surround myself with similar experiences.
Yeah,
I surround myself with the experiences I want to have. So, and sometimes I kind of look at certain people and I go, actually, these people are not bringing a very good experience. Maybe those are people I don't want to be around. You know, but that helps. Like once I start looking at it from that angle, it helped me actually starting. You know, I was starting to have boundaries and all that other stuff. You know, It's just it makes a big difference.
Yeah, no, totally. I know what you mean, because I feel like in my life I have people who, let's say, you know, I have that experience of like feeling empowered. Like for example, I'll tell like person who I work with, a guy called Michael Mani, who I do Common Sense with, like my journalist, like writing stuff. I surround myself with him because he gives me that experience of feeling empowered, trying to grow better, because I see him, I think, oh well, the stuff he's doing, I kind of, not to like emulate and become Michael Mani, but to do it my way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people take inspiration from other people and try and become the person in front of them, whereas actually, yes, it's good to try and emulate someone, but don't become that person that is ahead of you. Become the version that you want to become in a similar way to that person, you know? So I feel like with him, with relating back to your experience, like to the whole experience idea, I feel that I was surrounded with him because he has that empowerment experience with me. Or other people who like having a laugh, for example. Like I think it's good to sometimes have different people with different experiences. So like if I have my friends, as I've mentioned, like the 4 mates I have who I've been friends with for 10 years, I have a laugh with them. I have like those deep chats. I have that accountability. I have Mike, for example, who, you know, is someone I can try and draw towards that kind of experience, that empowerment experience, you know? So I think it's surrounding yourself with different people with different experiences, I think is, 100%.
Yeah, and there's this other thing of like, we become what we consume as well.
Yes.
And you know, it's like if I have a tea, and this is my favorite example, I use this all the time. If I have a tea and I'm putting sugar in the tea, it's gonna become sweet. If I'm gonna put salt in there, it's gonna become salty. So sometimes we're like a cup of tea as well.
It's like it's kind of like we kind of get like molded, don't we? You know? It's rather than like we're sort of born with like X features. We're sometimes within the environment we are provided those X features of that person. You know what I mean? So
and it's that thing of like if I want to, let's say, like become a public speaker, and I'm going to listen to an hour's long content every single day about public speaking. Yeah. Obviously, with that, the practical still needs to happen as well. But also, it's going to help me do the practical, because the more knowledge I have on something, the better I'm going to be at doing the practical.
Yes.
So it's that thing of like, you know, like let's say like someone would like want to learn how to ride a bike, and there's types of people that would buy a book and read it. How do I ride a bike? How do I ride a bike? Actually, you need to get on a bike. But I think what's really cool is actually if someone reads the book on how to ride a bike and also gets on a bike, that's even better.
Oh, completely. You know? It's funny because me and Alandra were having this like conversation just up here and stuff. It's like sometimes school can teach you certain things, but sometimes like life is the biggest teacher of things, you know. Because I was speaking to someone on the podcast recently In Pursuit, guy called Carl Stanger, who's the founder of Boys Get Sad Too. And I said, because he felt like school kind of like, I don't want to say failed him, but I think he said to me he felt misunderstood quite a lot. And I said to him like, okay, do you think like life university is a better form of education? He's like, it depends, because I feel like some people take a lot from life. They learn so much more things from life rather than being this sort of education system. And with my experience, like I have a bit of both. Like I've learned so much about myself within the school system, within university, but I also feel like I've made a lot of mistakes within life, which has actually given me the biggest blessing from that. You know, so it's like, going back to your example of like, you know, learning how to ride a bike. I'd say, I agree. It's a bit of both, because I feel like you can read a book, but how do you learn how to ride a bike if you don't actually ride the bike in the physical sense, right? So I think it's a bit of both in that sense. So
100%.
Interesting.
I agree with that. So here's a question for you. Where's the one thing that people should know about you?
So the one thing that people should know about me is, so I have a passion for communication. And what I mean by that is I just love to sort of connect with a lot of people. I like to communicate what I have in terms of the knowledge I have acquired over the past few years in that sense. And rather than like communicate for the sake of communicating, because I feel like a lot of people do it because they need to communicate. Because I think all of us as human beings have this innate nature to communicate.
Yeah.
What I want to do is actually communicate to help empower other people, to help, because to be honest, like my own journey has been like quite a up and down sort of spiral, if you can best say it, where, my 14-year-old self was sort of like, had low confidence, had this sort of low self-esteem, didn't really feel like I wasn't confident in myself because I've had this like learning disability, which I felt like it kind of crippled me, if the best way. And the reason why I do what I do, if that's, the podcast, if that's, the stuff I do on my Instagram to like share stuff about auditory processing disorder, the reason why I do it is so that 14-year-old self that I was doesn't have to feel the same pain, the same insecurities. That's why I communicate. I don't communicate just for the sake of like getting likes, getting views, getting fame, getting all that stuff. I want to actually empower people. I want to break those generational cycles, which I think I've encountered, maybe you've encountered. That's why I do what I do. So that's the one thing that people should know about me.
No, that's beautiful, man. I think, but I think you should also get paid for it, man.
No, I agree. This is the thing, man. It's like, it's difficult. I wish I could get paid for it. Don't get me wrong. Because I love what I do. And if, let's say, someone said to me tomorrow, like, would you get paid for what you do now? I'll snap your hand off. Like, absolutely. But at the same time, like, I don't want money to be a big motivator of mine, because I'd rather do something for the sake of, because I do it because I love it so much. I love communicating. I love empowering other people. I like just putting it out into the universe and someone coming back to me and saying, dude, this absolutely helped me. I now understand actually having an auditory processing disorder or having a learning disability isn't something to be ashamed of, because I feel like oftentimes people, I mean, don't get me wrong, like money is, some people get motivated by money and some people don't. Like with my experience, I've seen that money doesn't always equal happiness. It doesn't always. So this
is the thing. So I'm not even coming from that angle. I'm coming from more from like, once you get paid for this, for what you're doing, like you can do more. And I'm coming from that angle. So I think, because obviously there's loads of people out there who are providing certain services or whatever. Like, for instance, my favorite one's like tobacco and like alcohol. Like they get paid for that shit. But it's like, what value are they really adding? So I'd rather someone that's adding value to people get paid for it and then do more of that.
Right, okay.
Because like we had this conversation with Mo T, innit? Where it's like how do I monetize my thing? It's like, are people gonna think that I don't care about people if I monetize it? No, that's not the case. I can do more than
But do we need to have that conversation with everyone that we approach? Like, am I obligated to now say, you know what? I'm not monetizing this because I like money. I'm monetizing this because I want to do more. I want to have the luxury of having more of an approach. Because misunderstanding is normal. And it's normal in terms of the fact that it happens on a regular basis. So what approach do I take when it comes to like sharing this information? Do I need to explain it to everyone? Do I say, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to do it? And if you take it wrong, you take it wrong. What's up? Stop touching that, bro.
Sorry. You do touch it quite a lot.
Yeah, he does, like, he says,
but no,
it touches me instead, sorry.
How did we get there?
I don't know.
That innuendo, man, honestly.
I did it.
The thing is, right, I also feel that I've been recently reading studies where actually once you get paid for something, the motivation to do that same thing does go down, which is why I'm a little bit, when you get paid for something, that's when I'm like, I'm not sure. It does the same motivation come from doing what I want to do? If that makes sense?
I don't know. I think it depends. Like, would you feel less motivated if you got paid for it? I don't know.
I do get paid for it, and there is a slight, because obviously I went from not getting paid to being paid for filming. I do believe there is a slight. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
There you go. Let's get it.
Stories.
There you go.
Put your seatbelts on, guys. It's about to go on the ride.
It's about to go down.
Here's the thing. When you get paid, you get exposed to both the good and the bad version of what you're doing. So when I was shooting for myself and I wasn't getting paid for it, I would only do the things I want to do. Whereas now that I'm getting paid for it, sometimes I don't get the luxury of choosing. So I have to do everything. Because there is a good and bad experience for everything.
So what if you still got to do the things you're only passionate about and got paid for it? I don't have to do the things I want to do.
That's what you're working towards. So that now I think I know what it is. I think there's a space in between there's a space between not doing it for the money and doing it out of passion, and doing it out of passion and being money. That space in between is called progress. Once you get past that little rough patch of doing things you don't really want to do, but it's necessary for the reputation, you eventually get to a point where you do things that you want to do and you get paid for it. But you must go through that mud in between. So that's where I am right now. Obviously, don't get me wrong, I do a lot of shit I really love doing. There's a lot of people I work with that I really enjoy working with. But there are certain projects that get to a point where I'm like I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But I understand its necessity. I understand that it allows me to build a strong relationship with the people. I understand that it allows me to figure out a compromise on how to become better at what I do. And I understand that it is a temporary rough patch, and it is a means to an end. And the end is always going to be for me to enjoy day-to-day living.
Yeah.
Buzz.
There's also like parts of your passion as well where you're kind of like, you're doing certain parts of it that you don't want to do, but you know at the end of it, actually, by doing this, I get to do this.
Is it means to an end, isn't it?
Right? It's like, yeah, it's like with my podcasting, for example, I dislike, thank God I don't have to do it. I don't have to like edit the podcast now because I'm just like, it's just too long. Whereas actually, I prefer doing this, the conversations that actually come out of it. And I realize, okay, right, as much as I might not like doing, I don't know, listening back and like saying, okay, I need to edit this part, you need to edit this part. Listening back and actually having conversations in person is like, that is what drives me. You know, I feel like maybe there's parts of this maybe you just don't like doing, whereas actually this is the part that I actually enjoy.
100%. Aladdin's already laughing because like I have to like timestamp stuff. I hate timestamping stuff. I just
tell me about it.
And the thing is like I have the conversation in person, and I do actually enjoy like going through the whole episode and just listening back to it. But,
of course.
Yeah, just
it's revisiting when you're like, if I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you like to listen to it because I'm as an audience member, not as a worker. Like you would like to listen to the pod again as someone who's just consuming the content, not as someone who has to do work.
Yeah, so there's that thing of like, I said it before, it's like, what lens am I reading the book through? And it's the same thing. It's like, what lens am I listening?
But can we
the podcast through? If I'm listening to, to look for clips and timestamp and edits,
But can we get a hybrid? Can we train ourselves to have a hybrid lens?
I think everything's possible.
Yeah.
So essentially, all this is training, right? We're training ourselves to become to look at the good and look at the thing that we need to do, look at the thing that we love doing, and then finding a way to put them together. You like watching the pod, you don't like doing the timestamps. How about we try to make it feel like you're just watching as an audience member, but you're also doing some of the work?
Actually, I'm gonna take it back. I don't think it's possible.
Shut up.
So like, if you like, I personally think if like, like you have one lens, and if you put a second lens there, then a third lens and a fourth lens, I think eventually you're not going to see anything because there's too much. There's too many lenses.
You're saying putting lenses in front of each other. I'm saying we're creating a whole new lens, but that's a hybrid that takes the good and the bad out of all of the other ones. That's what I'm trying to say. You when you put more like 5 lenses in a row, you're going to get nothing.
Yeah. It's very difficult, I have to admit, though, because I have to do something where I sometimes have to take myself out of the situation as being a host. It's like, sometimes I'm like listening to you and I'm thinking, okay, what question next? What question next? What question next?
Yeah. Bro, there's no rule, just ask the question.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, it depends on, okay, hold on. It depends on the conversation, of course, right? Like sometimes, I'm like, someone says something really interesting. I'm like, okay, right, I've got to remember it. But then I'm still like trying to listen to that. It's like, it goes back to that lens idea. It's like, you're the host, but you're also like the producer. You're thinking, okay, does the audience actually like this? And sometimes I think it takes practice. That's what I have to admit. Like sometimes for me, like when I first started, bro, I was so bad as a host. I was like, like host / like producer of my podcast. I was like thinking, now listen back, I'm like, why is this person saying this? Like cut it, like interrupt this person, say, okay, but what about this? What about this? What about this? So I think it takes practice to get to that point of like knowing, okay, yes, as a host, like, I'm listening to this conversation, this is really good, but as an audience member, like, does this add value?
Yeah.
So I think it actually takes practice in that sense.
It's mad that you said it, because I don't even remember, but I asked you to come in a bit early today, before, but it's fine. The reason why I asked you to come early, because I wanted to show you, I recently found the first pod that me and Leo did before, one we didn't release. The first ever time we sat down together, in front of mics and had a conversation. It was a 30-minute conversation. I have it hooked up to this TV right now. I really want to watch it with you, but obviously I have to go after this.
Of course.
But that's like, I watched a little bit of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched a little bit of it, and it got me thinking like, shit. One, I love revisiting old mindsets.
Yeah.
I love revisiting an older version of myself. Or an older version or a younger version? What do you call that? A past version of myself.
Past.
Yeah.
I'll say past.
So I like that, and I also like kind of, I like see, you never really get to see how far you've traveled unless you turn around and look up where you started. Put on a t-shirt.
It's sometimes hard though to look back because you're so in the moment or grind or whatever that you want to talk about it. You're so like, right, I've got to do this episode, I've got to do this person, and this is the thing. My biggest sort of weakness of mine is sometimes like I just hone in to my thing and that's it. I don't forget how much progress I've made. Like the fact is, right, I never think about like, you know, as a kid who has the auditory processing disorder, there's someone who literally did not speak when I was like 4 years old because I went to a speech therapist. Like, I never look back at the moment of being like, yo, Hamish, you're a podcast host, you're doing multiple seasons, you're going to do like 7 seasons at this point of In Pursuit of Passion. Dude, pat yourself on the bloody back. But yet we as people don't do this. I don't know why we often don't look back and introspect and saying like, dude, look behind you, look at the progress you've made, because we're so focused on like the here and now.
Yeah.
You know, we don't look back and actually praise ourselves by how far we've come forward. I don't know why we do that.
No, I was gonna say I have a slightly different philosophy in that. I tend not to look back. Like obviously sometimes I do by accident, like see like an older video or whatever. But I know that some of the stuff that I'm gonna do now is gonna be the thing that I could look back on. So I just know that that's a natural. I just know that's a thing anyway. So I don't have to look back on it. I'm more about let me enjoy the process right now.
Yeah.
And just keep working, like just keep pushing forward. And that's the thing. And it goes back to the whole thing of like, like we know once we're gonna go through the process and we're gonna put the hours into something, we know we're gonna become a better version of that thing that we're doing anyways. It's like the whole thing of like we learn how to walk by trying and falling down and then one of the things that you want to talk about is adversity, but from what I'm hearing from what you're saying as well, is that you have high levels of resilience. Because if you didn't have the high levels of resilience, you wouldn't have pushed through the adversity that you push through. But I know you want to talk about adversity. So what does that mean for you? And
so I think adversity to me is, it's sort of like, because I think all of us go through adversity, right? All different kinds of adversity. And oftentimes we have a decision to make. And you know, there's lyrics actually I listened to a guy called, you know, Big Sean, Post Malone.
Yeah.
There's a song called Wolves. I was listening to the lyrics of it and it actually sort of struck to me about adversity. It's like we live in a cold world, but we can choose either to be predator or to be prey. And it's the fact that without adversity, we'll inevitably experience it. It's about how do we choose to deal with it. Are we going to be the predator of the adversity or are we going to be the prey of that adversity situation, right? Yeah. I think adversity to me is, I think it's important that we all experience adversity to some extent. And don't get me wrong, like some adversities we don't particularly want to experience, like let's say like, I don't know, depression or your parents dying or whatever the hell it is. I think it's important because I feel like it creates our next version of ourselves. In that sense, it teaches us to grow. And I think I'm very, as much as at the time I went through some bloody adverse situations where like I felt misunderstood because the teachers didn't understand my condition, or I was bullied, for example. My mum went through cancer, for example. Like I've gone through a lot of like adverse situations. However, that has taught me to grow that resilience, to sort of try and get over those hurdles. Because now looking at certain situations now, I'm like, okay, as much as this is a challenge, I've gone through way worse. I can go and over these challenges and overcome it, you know? So I think adversity to me, I think is a necessity, if I have to be honest with you. I feel like all of us will have to go through it, but then it's deciding how do we face adversity? How do we define it? And I think some people have the ability to define it in ways like, as I mentioned before, to be the predator rather than the prey. But I think oftentimes people sometimes choose the prey over the predator. But I want to, be the predator of the adversity.
No, that's really interesting. And I think for me, adversity is an opportunity. And it's going back to the thing. And I think the way I described it is basically the same thing that you were saying, which is like, do I want to be the prey or the predator? And for me, it's just more like, do I want to, like, I feel like adversity in life will either break or make someone.
Yeah.
Going back to that thing, it's like, do I want it to break me or do I want it to make me? But what I realized over the last few years is that actually I don't have the two options. There's only one option, because breaking is not an option for me. So I only have one option, is to go through it, to be resilient.
Because by breaking, you're just like You just sit there.
It's not really an option. Like to me, for another person, it might be an option. To me, it's not an option. So for me, whenever I face adversity in anything, this is my mindset. This is how my mind is set. Like, I have to go through it. Like, I'm not gonna let it break me. So I only have one option.
But how, this is the thing, right? Because I listen to a lot of people talk about adversity and like how they sort of overcome it. But then I see other people who, let's say, face a very similar situation, but then just like accept it, let it overcome them, right? So I just want to know, like, how do you get to that point of like overcoming that adversity, whereas other people just don't have that mental capacity to sort of get over it? You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain
I think, it makes perfect sense. I don't think it's something that we can just put our finger on and go, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's developed over, it's the same thing that we spoke about before. You know, the podcast becomes better the more you do it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's like a muscle. So for me, it's been a journey where like, maybe I'd spend an hour like dwelling on a situation that I've been through or thinking about how I'm going to sort it out or whatever. Then like 2 years later, it's 50 minutes and then it's 40 minutes. Maybe by this point, it's just like 2 minutes and I've moved on already. You know, so what it is like over time, just working with my own mind and just understanding that, you know, like just thinking about it's not going to change it. So just, so I move on. Like I'm very good at moving on quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Do you read like Stoicism? Stoic.
We had a conversation over the phone. Yeah. So I used to follow a page for that on Instagram, but then I unfollowed them because it just, I think they posted a lot of bullshit quotes as well. But I think the way of, but I think the whole concept of Stoicism is like, I think it's a beautiful way of living life.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of my sort of philosophies I try and like, you know, embrace in that sense, because I feel like if you can't change something, why do you give such a shit about it, right? Why do you care so much? If you can't change the situation, leave it.
Yeah.
Focus on what you can change. And if you focus on what you can change, then it gives you way more energy to focus on that rather than waste energy on something that you can't change. It's
100%.
like, you know, like I've had, again, sorry if I'm referring to my experience, by the way.
No, that's
fine. You know, I've had experiences where like I wish I never had my learning difficulty. I'll be honest with you. I would sit in my bed just like, I hate this shit. Like, why do I have this learning difficulty, right? But I can't change it. I can't. I've got it. I'm born with it. So you might as well just deal with it and just focus on what you can change, which is you can put in the effort to get, I don't know, the grades that you want to get, or you can put in the effort that you want to get to a certain university, or you can, you know, if you want to become more confident, put in the work to make yourself more confident. If you want to become a better public speaker, become a better public speaker, you know, like put in the work. Like there are things that you can change in certain situations, and to not sort of, like care about certain situations that you can't change.
I think that's like the uncomfortable truth, innit?
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is I was dealt a shit hand. Like life is
literally
just a game of cards. Whatever card you get to choose. I was just dealt a shit hand. Cool.
How are you gonna play it?
How am I gonna play exactly?
How are you going to
do I want to win? Because there's like £2 million on the line. Do I want to win? If anything, there is unlimited money on the line. Do I want to fucking win?
Yeah.
If I want to win, I'll figure it out.
But this is the thing though, it goes back to the question though, like, but why do people, because this is the thing, like, this is what I've tried to understand some other people who sometimes are dealt with shit cards, but yet stay with these cards, don't change them. Right? That's the one question I'm trying to figure out.
I think you can't change the cards. You can only play them in a way, because like the metaphor is, if I was born with no arm, I can't grow an arm.
Of course, no.
But then I kind of get prosthetic. So I can pick up certain cards that might allow me to, regardless of the point, the metaphor is getting out of but the fact of the matter is, you can't really change the hand you've been dealt.
No.
You can play them, and most card games, if you have like, we say like, I call it, what I call it? What's the word for it? Manifestation. So I think luck and manifestation is the exact same thing. You only get lucky if you manifest. So when you're playing certain card games, you pick up cards, you manifest certain cards to make your hand a bit better or easier or more easier to win the game.
Right.
So, and that all comes from action. You're not gonna get lucky if you sit in bed all day just getting upset about shit that you can't control. You only get lucky if you go out and be proud.
Oh, the harder you work, the luckier you become.
Exactly. And that's the meaning of manifestation. So we are dealt a shit hand, and we can't really change the hand, but we can make it a hand better and more easy, and you can understand the hand rather than understanding a hand that you want to have.
Gotcha.
So my thing as well, mine says this as well. Some people just shit at the game.
Yep. Didn't read the rule.
What do you mean? Sorry.
So I play blackjack with my friends sometimes. And sometimes the other people join in or whatever. Some people just share the game. Like some people can just be dealt like a shit hand.
Yeah. Why do you keep looking at me when you say that? What the fuck?
No, your shit as well. But some people share the game. It's like they can be dealt like the most amazing hand and they can still lose. You know?
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So it's like it's going back to the thing. It's not about the cards, it's about how you play. And I think what's missing is perspective. So for the people that are like in certain tough situations and all these different things, it's like they're missing perspective. So they're missing a conversation with someone which can change that perspective, or they're missing an experience with something that can change the perspective. So a lot of the times it's like they haven't changed the perspective yet to see how they can play the hands better.
No one hears about a guy that grew up with a silver spoon and ended his life with a wooden spoon, innit?
Yeah.
No one hears about that guy. Everyone hears about a guy like Ronaldo that grew up on a wooden spoon and lives a silver spoon lifestyle.
Yeah. Although it is possible though.
I think it's possible.
It is definitely possible.
It's possible, but no one knows about him. Yeah. Because those people are you don't because you don't get like fame popularity from.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I guess you do get fame probably from Amber Heard or whatever. But very pop culture.
Do you have to bring that?
No.
Really?
Really,
Aladdin.
What I'm trying to say.
You know what it is? You went on the way here today. I was like, oh, should I bring? I was like, nah. We don't talk about that shit here.
Wait, now you're still talking about it. I'm trying to be positive.
I can't, man.
I'm trying to be positive. What I'm trying to say is. No one knows of the people.
Conversation.
There are people that were born with a silver spoon and died with a wooden spoon, but no one knows about those people. There's a fuck ton of them, but no one knows about them because we don't fucking care about those people.
Yeah. Or they are born with a silver spoon, but still remain with that silver spoon and don't become like a golden spoon or a platinum spoon, right? Because they're so comfortable within that certain situation. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like I know certain people who, let's say, are born in a very like privileged middle class family, you know, got all the money, everything, but yet want to stay within that situation because it's comfortable.
Then again, comfortability is the enemy of progress, but it is not the enemy of happiness.
True.
I could be happy and comfortable at the same time. If I'm complacent and happy where I am, it's the enemy of progress, but the enemy of happiness.
Yeah. So I'm playing around with this idea of like two things can coexist at the same time. So like people tell me like, oh, you can't be sad and happy at the same time. I'm like, I can.
Oh, of course you can.
Yeah.
Schrodinger's cat. You know about Schrodinger's cat, right? You don't know about Schrodinger's cat?
What do you mean?
No? You never heard of it?
What are you talking about?
It's an experiment. It's a thought experiment. You put a cat in a box, and until you open that box, the cat is both dead and alive at the same time until you actually know the fact.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
I don't know if this is in relation.
I think I know. No. I think it does, because the thing is, I feel like you can be... I agree with you, how you can be happy and sad, because I feel like you can be happy by the success that you've made yourself, but yet there comes consequences of it, right? Let's take fame, right? You become famous or you become popular, right? But yet you get consequences of it. You get, I don't know, you have fans coming up to you wanting to take a picture all the time. You can't have that privacy, for example, with, I don't know, like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, right? I think there comes consequences from the success that comes from it, and that's if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
You know, because I feel like as much as, let's say, I want to grow in terms and become this, you know, go into bigger audiences. Like, let's say I want to do a TED talk. I have to admit, like now looking at it, I would like to have that as a goal to do a TED talk, right? Yeah. But yet the consequences of that is I'm going to be speaking in front of hundreds of thousands of people potentially, right? That is scary, right? And it's sad. Some people might have crippling anxiety because of that, right? Or let's say you become a bigger following. By having a bigger following, it comes of a consequence because you're then seen as the expert in quotation marks, right? You have to know everything, right?
Yeah, more money, more problems, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, right? Or even like, I don't want to bring it up, but like cancel culture in quotation marks, right? You know, you got people, if you start to make a mistake, oh, you're going to be cancelled because you got a big following and apparently you're supposed to have, you know, everything all, you know, shit figured out, right?
I want to be the first guy that doesn't give a shit about that. Hopefully.
I know
fingers crossed.
That looks fun, man, isn't it?
Listen, I'm like...
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't give a shit either. I don't care about it. Don't get me wrong. Like if someone generally wants to cancel me, and I'm brave talking about it on the podcast, but like if someone generally wants to bring something up about me, I'll just say, look, that was just my past self. I'm now Hamish Hallett as a 24-year-old now, not Hamish Hallett as a 14-year-old, right?
So
that does kind of justify some of the fuckeries that people do.
People. Oh, so the moral story is people are doo-doo.
People do, yeah.
That makes sense.
There we go. There was sorry, what? He's completely lost.
Sorry, I'm so lost.
People do.
You want to rerun that one more time?
No. So it was a bullshit quote, but by blaming a past version of myself for an action I did back then, it does justify some fuckeries. I'm bugging.
Gotcha.
So how much I'll be allowed to say? Because I'm just like, fuck it. I know. I've said some fuckeries. I've said some fuckeries. And when people like get on to me about today, I still hold by it. Not the fact that I may not believe that thing I did, but
freedom of speech.
The fact of the matter is I said it, and I admit I said it, and I'm not gonna say it wasn't me. It was fucking me.
Yeah.
My person now.
It was fucking me.
The fact of the matter is the person I am now does not agree with it. But I don't blame. It's not. I don't like kind of shift the blame to another person because for me, the way I see blaming a past version of yourself is almost like blaming another person. I did it. Now I disagree with what I did and what I said, but I did it.
So by blaming your previous self, you're not taking responsibility of what you said, right?
Gotcha. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
But then, I think correct me if I'm wrong. I think the intention is the same. The intention is just where we say is different, but the intention is who I am today, who I was then are two completely different kind of mindsets.
Oh, totally.
That's essentially what we're trying to say. We just say it in different ways.
Of course.
Did you want to say anything else on that point? Because I didn't
I just wanted to say that I'm already going with that dead. I'm already cancelled. So like it's like what could it be worse than that? Like I'm like we're shooting the spot and like we're cancelled already anyways. Fuck it.
Yeah. By putting yourself out there, you're basically cancelled at this point.
All publicity is good publicity.
So like if I already cancelled, then what else can happen at this point?
Death.
Yeah, that's probably the ultimate version of cancellation. You die cancelled to life.
Shoned. Whatever.
That's Mr. Shoned.
That's the thing. I don't even think death is that bad. Like,
no. That's what there was a movie with Robin Williams. He was in the court, and it was a movie in it. And one of the court people, they said, "Oh, what if someone died?" And he responded with, "Why do we see death as an enemy? Why is death the enemy? Why is death so bad?" So
that's the thing, yeah. So death is not an issue. I think the issue is how we deal with losses.
Yep.
That's the. So I think why death affects so many people it's more to do with how we deal with loss rather than the death in itself. Because when someone dies, we lose someone. We go through the process. That's probably the ultimate loss because it's like you can never get that back again. Speaking
of that, I did want to talk about something I was thinking about in the shower. Where we have all our best thoughts.
Yeah.
So, what is grief if not love persevering? That quote basically means I don't know what. For me to have something, I must have something else. For me to have a bad feeling, I must have a good feeling to know what I'm missing. I'm trying to like word the point properly. If I wanted to go skydiving, or if I wanted to be rich, not like skydiving. If I wanted to be rich. Essentially, what I do want is I want to be rich so that I can enhance or have the feeling I used to have when I had a little bit of money back then. We want to replicate because I don't want money. I want the feeling I believe money brings. Understand? Because money in and of itself has no value, but the feeling that it brings, or the feeling I believe it brings, because I've had money, like I may have experienced money before, and it gave me a little bit of a happy feeling. So now I thought if I have more money, it must equal to more happiness. 1 second, I beg. So if I have more money, I must have more happiness. What I'm trying to think is, if who chooses more money means more happiness. Because from my experience, that was the fact. But it's because I got to choose what value comes from the money. Whereas now, if I got to choose that, can I now choose value in other things? Can I now say, you know what? I want more conversations, and I want to say, I want to believe that conversations is where the value's at, where I have more fun.
Yeah.
So I guess it does come to like having the ability to choose.
So from my angle on that, I would say I agree with you in that sense of saying that I think you choose it personally. I don't think, because with money, like I don't see money equaling happiness personally. Like I think yes, money can create that sort of comfortability.
You feel happy when you had.
Oh yeah, money, totally. When I felt happy, but like
as a result of what though? Was that as a result of money, or was that as a result of what you could do?
So with what you could do with it potentially. The fact that you could, I don't know, buy new shoes, buy a house, buy whatever, right?
By and large,
by and large or stuff, right? In that sense. So that I think money can help. For me, I think money brings that comfortability of like not having to worry about the bills at the end of this month or something, right? Yeah. It comes from that. That's how I would define it. But I think sometimes society defines like money as equaling happiness, which I don't completely agree with because I don't think money equals happiness necessarily.
Yeah,
it depends. I think it depends on the person, because some people might grow up with completely no money at all, right? And that's how they see their happiness, and that's completely fine. That's their view, completely. However, I see it as, happiness actually not completely always equaling money. Sorry,
Pitbull said money does bring happiness. You just need to give it away. I don't know if I agree with that though.
So let me ask you this: where do your feelings come from?
My twist.
Huh? Where do your feelings come from?
From me.
So can money bring you a feeling?
No, so
you get to decide on how you feel about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have this. We have a superpower
in terms of defining what comes out of it, right?
That in of itself is a superpower. Because what is a superpower? If everyone in this world has super strength, that means there's no longer a superpower because everyone has it. The fact of the matter is, we will have the ability to have this choice. We just haven't proactively went out of our way to unlock it. Which is why because the fact that not all of us, because if I get to choose how I feel about whatever I feel, to me that's a superpower because not everyone can do it. So that makes me that makes me different, or what's the word? I don't want to say superior. I want to say like I have more of a control. I have more power. More power of myself. That's the word. I have more power because I get to choose how I feel about certain things. Whereas everyone else, or not everyone, but a lot of the people don't see this ability, so they lack the ability, they lack the superpower of control.
Gotcha.
Come on.
Interesting. So the other thing as well is like, does it actually bring happiness, or maybe it brings a feeling of comfortability? What if we're labeling the feeling wrong?
That's a problem.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I wanna go touch back because Aladdin mentioned manifestation earlier, and I know that Hamish got beef with that.
Okay, beef
concept.
Beef might be.
Well, you can explain what you mean by it anyway. Well,
I know when you mentioned manifestation, I was like, oh god, here we go. We're gonna have an argument here.
That's it. I'm on it.
I think the problem with maybe I'm getting manifestation wrong potentially, but I'm all ears.
So. You're definitely not getting it wrong. You're only gonna get it how you understand it.
I understand it. Yeah. So how I see it is, if you manifest something, it's just gonna magically appears. Right? That's how I see manifestation. And sometimes stuff can't just magically appear. As I've said before, you've got to put in the work in order to get something. Now, don't get me wrong. By chance, you could sometimes have that sort of, okay, I want to have that positive. Like today, let's say, I want to say, right, today's going to be a good day. And I say that constantly. Yes, maybe that happens. Maybe you have a good day. But what if something happens where it completely screws your day? Like, I don't know, some random person says something really mean to you, right? Or a car randomly comes over and hits you, right? That ruins completely. And that's why I have a slight issue with this idea of manifestation, because it sort of creates this belief of saying, if I just say this, it happens. And I think it completely ignores the external factors. It completely ignores like the hard work that I think some people have to put in order to get to the situation that it is. That's how I see it.
Yeah, because my belief of the word manifestation comes from the fact that you get what you deserve what you have. So if I work hard, I manifest luck. Like I said, for me, luck and manifestation are the same thing, because if I work hard, good things will happen, because I'm exposing myself to these good things. I'm exposing myself to a higher value, a higher value of experience, because I am actively going my way to do. So it's like you said, you get more lucky. The more work you do, the more lucky you get. Well, am I saying it wrong?
Yeah, like I think that the harder you work, the luckier you become. Like no one gets anything without like putting themselves out there.
Oh, I agree.
So that's my definition, which might be different to yours. But
yeah, this is the issue though. I sometimes feel like even if people put in the hard work, sometimes it doesn't happen.
But they'll still be more luckier than they would have been before that. Because then it depends on what scale we're talking about.
Yeah, well, this is the thing.
But that's the thing, that the harder someone works at something, the luckier they become.
Yeah, it maybe depends on where the person wants to aim towards, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't argue with that.
Boy,
but I think
imagine you work hard and you still have a live shit lifestyle. Like, so imagine if I didn't work hard.
Yeah.
So I'm not really like a universe kind of person, which is weird actually, because I am. But yeah, so like I've not really been looking into like this is universe talking to me thing like or anything like that. But recently, like the universe has been speaking to me in different ways, which is like I find that really interesting. And I think for me, manifestation has become a thing of feeling rather than something I'm saying. Meaning how I feel deep down inside internally is then going to connect to what I want out there.
Right.
So it's about the feeling rather than I'm going to tell myself this is what I want and I'm telling myself every single day. That's just thinking. That's what thinking is. I think manifestation for me is a feeling. So the more I feel about something in a certain type of way, the more it's happening to me. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like I'm not going to get into it now. There's like even a couple other things that's been happening in my life in the last like 2 years. It's like, you can't make that shit up. It's just, the coincidence is just such a slim chance for the coincidence for that, like that to happen. It's starting to happen more often and often and often. I'm like, wow, this is really cool.
What are you also doing that's more often? You're also working hard often.
Yeah, but also I'm also like having that feeling of like, this is how I feel about life. And then, so like, you know what? So I've got this super cool way of like.
You says it's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have this like super cool way of like looking at life right now. I start looking at life as a person. Yeah. And I kind of go like, you know what? Like, what if I'm in a relationship with life? Like, let me flirt with life a little bit. Like I wake up in the morning and go, life, you look kind of sexy. You're beautiful. I love you. You know, and I'm thinking, if life is a person, what is life going to be telling me if I say that to life?
Yeah.
And life responds back to me like, yeah, like you're beautiful too. Like, you know, like I appreciate you. Let me do more things for you.
Yeah.
So like I'm starting to build this relationship with life. And I was thinking for some people wake up in the morning and go, I hate life.
Yeah.
And I go, life, I hate you. And I wonder what life says back. Like life probably goes, I hate you too. Fuck you.
Can we make and don't throw it. It's like when you focus on the bad aspects of life, you will feel shit, right? Yeah. I know that sounds like a crazy thought, but it's quite basic. If you focus on like the negative parts of it, you will feel crap. You will feel like life is going against you. Whereas if you focus on, you know, the gooder parts in that sense, then I think to some extent, yeah, you can get that kind of sort of good elements from it. Because I feel like, this is the thing, I think the feeling idea that you said about manifestation is interesting, definitely. I think, but then this is the thing, right? What if that feeling is wrong? What happens there? What if the feeling that you thought was going to direct you into the right direction happens, actually, no, this goes into the wrong direction completely? You know, because sometimes
how can we know until we get to the end?
Well, here's the thing. What if you get to the end? Let's say you do this, I don't know, podcast for, I don't know, 5 years. But you get to, and you thought, oh, this is going to become the best podcast ever in the self-help space. Let's just say
that's the thing, it already is.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, well okay.
I'm just joking, but yeah, go on. Make a point.
That's good. But let's say theoretically, right? You're saying, right, this is going to be the best self-help podcast in 5 years, right? You have a strong feeling it's going to be, right? But by that 5 year point, you actually get to and say, actually, it's not. Clearly, that feeling misdirected you potentially, right?
That's why I don't.
Maybe it did, maybe it not.
But that's the thing. It goes back to measurement. Remember, we set our measurement from the start. So like the moment we released the first episode, like we already won. Like this was already the best podcast. Actually, when we started planning, and putting things away, it was already the best podcast.
When we did Airtime Prime, BTS became the best podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Shout out Yusuf.
You come on.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, at what point does that become the best podcast? Is it when you get the numbers? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it before? Like, at what point?
So so the way I see what you said is one time frame. I hate setting time frames because when you set a time frame, it's like running a marathon. My metaphor is always it's like running a marathon. When you run a marathon, your focus is how to get to the end. Whereas if you just enjoy running, benefits and they come as milestones come as a side effect.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, literally what you said. Like, what do you consider successful? We can have five subscribers and have 5 views every single week, and those are the same 5 people, and each one of those 5 people are benefiting from what we do, and they can, as far as we know, we're trying to make their lives a bit easier or better. What if one of them goes and changes the world?
Yeah, it's a ripple effect. It's like they're listening to the podcast, then they're having some of the conversations because they consume some of that content that they take.
We're planting seeds. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So that's our definition of success.
Oh, that's fair. No, completely fair. No, it's completely understandable because I feel like this is what I'm trying to say. It's like, you know, sometimes some people have certain feelings about something and they go towards it, and actually, oh wait, that's not the feeling that it went towards, which is fair. And I think it goes in terms of like the metrics, which I think was how you said it, especially with the social media metrics. I think social media metrics don't actually measure the or like don't measure the success, right? It doesn't, right? Because I agree, it's sense of like, let's say someone is listening to this conversation right now, that one person maybe hasn't even liked it, right? And then we forget that sort of person, you know? It's like that person might go to another person who's not even watched this podcast, like, oh, I listened to this podcast who said this, this, and this. We don't even know because we're basing on the metrics of social media, right? So,
and even like the whole why do I keep getting brain farts today?
Oh, don't worry, that happens to me as well, man. Honestly,
I have a brain fart now, but I had a really, really good point. You know, we'll get back to it. You start saying things and I'll say words.
But the thing is,
big noise.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting about the whole success because I'm trying to understand what my definition of success is as well, because it's difficult because it's like, because you've got so much noise in the world, right? Social media, society, parents, friends, whoever, right, says this is my definition of success, this is the definition of success, and you can't actually understand and get to the actual root of what is your definition of success, right? Yeah. And mine, for me, is like, if I'm improving every single day, if I'm empowering just one person with the content I do, that to me is, I feel successful.
That's it. So you're already successful. That's what I'm trying to say.
The reason why you're successful is because you don't care what other people think. In this world, if you have high numbers, you looked at as highly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you have high numbers, you look as highly, and that's why we crave the high numbers. You don't crave the high numbers because we like want all people to watch us. Yeah. We want to crave high numbers so that other people can go and say, oh shit, this guy is valuable because he has something K. Whereas when it comes to someone like us, we obviously see value elsewhere.
Of course.
From when I have people approach me saying, oh yeah, yo, I love this point you made on the pod, or I watch the pod every week, I really enjoy it, or from when I look forward to this part. But if I hear someone on another podcast say, yeah, I was listening to BTS and this guy said this, that shit is what I want to see value in.
Yeah.
And it's mainly not because they're sharing it, but it's because they actually generally took the words that was said and molded it to how they want to understand it, and then applied it to life and became better people. It's always been about that one thing: become better people. How can we become a better person? How can we allow other people to become better people? How can we share? And that's from the beginning. From the beginning, it's always been about that shit.
From the beginning, from the beginning,
it's always been about that shit, man.
But listen, that's what we say, like changing the world one conversation at a time. And that's what it is. And that's the thing. And it's like the whole thing of like, and there's so many people that's not saying this to us. There's so many people that are not saying like, hey, like I watched this thing, or you made this point, because I'm that person. Like sometimes I watch things online and I watch other people's things that I don't message them and say that, hey, I really like this thing or whatever.
Why is that? That's interesting. Because the thing is, right, today actually is interesting. Today I saw someone say something super interesting about like breaking the cycle of like past trauma, or like breaking the cycle about, it was basically like breaking the cycle. That's the whole point. And I like shared on his story, I shared on my story, tagged him, and then, you know, he said, oh, thanks so much. And I then explained like why I shared it. So I said, dude, this provides so much value, I resonate with this. So I did that. But
so the reason I don't do it, and I don't want people to do it to me either. If they do it, that's great.
Yeah.
But the reason I don't do it is because they don't need my validation. If they need my validation to do what they're doing, then they should stop doing that, because they should have their own internal validation in the first place. Plus, I mean, it's great. It's great. Like, you know what? I love when people go like, yeah, I like this thing or whatever. It does like adds, like it gives a bit of like validation and confirmation. But one thing I've been learning like in the last like few years, it's all about my internal validation. I need to validate myself first, and I need to do what I'm passionate about, because if I'm going to rely on other people's validation, I'm already fucked. Because what happens when I stop getting it?
Yeah.
But then I also
does that mean I'm worth less?
Cheers. Regardless.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I do like the whole thing. And by me crediting you for saying this is almost an oxymoron. But I was inspired by the world being inspired by me.
Yeah.
I don't need to credit the person that said this, because that person who said the thing was also inspired by the world.
Yeah.
So now if I say it as well, I don't have to credit them. I'm saying it so that other people can be inspired by it. Because all the ingredients has been laid out for us. We're just finding new combinations of.
That's just creativity, you know.
It's just, you know what I'm saying. It's just laying out, making new combinations to make new things.
Yeah.
So, by you saying, or by Forrest Gump saying life is like a box of chocolates. He said it
is though, but
what I find is you may take it differently. And you may say that he may have seen it as, oh, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. But you might see it, look at it and saying, shit, it actually like a box of chocolate. It looks like shit, but it tastes amazing. Now you have a whole new interpretation of that quote. So now I'm saying things, but I'm taking it differently. So I don't have to say, oh yeah, Leo said this thing, and Leo got from J. Cole, and J. Cole got from this guy. And no,
that's kind of long.
It's kind of long. It's kind of long. It can go back to like 1,000 years. So that was just one great philosopher. You know what I'm saying?
Greek brother.
Yes, like reference it and everything.
When it comes to people who are creative, crediting them is valuable. I know more than anyone. I'm saying I like my shit credited properly. But when it comes to saying things, and when it comes to like quotes and learnings, especially learnings, that's a big one. We shouldn't feel obligated to credit. We should do it if we want to, because then the person may benefit from it, and that's whatever. But
of course,
we shouldn't feel obligated to credit other people for it, because
it's an option.
The board is
it's an option. Like the reason why I do it is just because I want. Because then it kind of is giving up validation now. Because I was about to say, like, I do it because he or she or they might just be struggling for not motivation, but just like maybe they want. I want to encourage them to say, dude, what you're doing is sick. Because how I look at it, because sometimes I do what I do, and I'm not saying I get the validation from likes or whatever. Sometimes I get times where I'm like, what am I doing this for? Why am I posting this? Why am I doing this? And then I get the odd comment of saying, dude, this video helped explain what I have so easily. That then makes my day. I'm not saying that's my motivation to do what I do. I'm not saying that, but there's times like both of you might have had this situation where you're like, why am I doing this podcast? What is this for? And then sometimes you might have that one comment or whatever, how many comments it is, that then lift you up and give you the reason for what you do.
So I get that. Look, just to be clear, like we're not against it.
Oh yeah, of course.
I just think it's not a thing that people should rely on. Primarily, I think it should be a secondary thing. I think the first thing should always be internal validation / purpose.
Sure.
Because once that's there, it's like the second thing doesn't really matter. But if it's there, that's great. If it's giving people an extra boost,
if anything,
that's great. But I don't want to rely on that. I don't want that.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't rely on that.
The only thing we should like comments for is because we want to do this as a profession and we get paid for it, we want to pay our bills with it, so we have to learn to play the system. How do we play the system? By getting likes, comments, views, etc. That's the only reason why we want to get that thing. And again, that's number two. Number one is always we want to empower the world, and number two is we want to do this as our job. So we must learn how to play the game. This is a game that we didn't create rules. We just it was like Squid Game, innit? We didn't create rules. We just participate on it, and there is a means to an end. Now, if we get comments and likes and etc., we don't look at it thinking, oh, right, I'm better as a person because of this thing. We look at it as, cool, this is getting us one step closer to our end, which is getting paid for the shit.
Yeah. Sure.
The comments I love the most are the comments that go like, what the fuck is this? Like those are, we don't get too many of them. Like we had like a couple.
No, we haven't had a single hate yet.
No, we had couple. I remember someone when we spoke up, we had Voltaire and someone was saying, oh, people shouldn't be having freedom of speech or...
I need to go back on that one.
Yeah, but basically, it's just, you know what it is? There's couple, like, there's been like maybe one or two.
Yeah.
But those are the comments I love the most because like actually we're opening up a whole different conversation. Because I'm about to conversate with you and potentially there could be learning for both sides in that conversation. So I love those. And one of the other things I've learned recently, so from that book called Never Split the Difference.
Oh, the one you sent me?
I think I've heard of that book, yeah.
Yeah, fucking incredible book. So one thing I've learned from there recently, which kind of changed my perspective. So he talks about negotiating a lot. And he says that actually having a no is actually the beginning of the conversation, not the end of it. So when you're negotiating with someone or whatever, when someone goes no, that no has some substance behind it. There's a reason for the person saying no. And then you can start, if you can start opening up the conversation through questions to find out what that no means and where we're going to go to next.
I did what you did. Sure. You know how you said, remember, do you want to tell a story or should I? About the whole, you got that call when you end up having a conversation with that person. Call from a telemarketing person, sales.
You go for it.
Essentially, he got a spam call from one of these telemarketing whatever.
Gotcha.
And he ended up having like a half an hour conversation with him about empowering and bettering. Like obviously the guy called him and said, oh yeah, I work for this. I would like to sell you this, that. And he ended up having like a proper deep conversation with the person. I tried doing the same thing. I got added on Snapchat by one of these fucking nude fucking girls that sell shit. And I really wanted to do what you did, but I said, have you ever considered a career change? I do kind of need an assistant for the work I do. She aired me, but it would have been lit to have a conversation.
That's the thing. If she would have said no, that's a start of a conversation. But this is what I'm learning now. So when someone goes no, like now, before I think in the past, like my perspective was, I'm not going to have this conversation moving forward.
Yeah.
Now if someone goes no, this is the start of the conversation. Let me start
trying to get.
Yeah.
But where was that change though? Because this is the thing. Because oftentimes when you hear no, you're like, okay, fine, I'll stop. But
I don't know.
Because some people just like when they hear the no, they're just like, okay, fine, I won't dive into it. Whereas what you said, which is super interesting, by the way, you said, okay, no, but actually let me find out more. What was that switch?
Because if someone says no, they're not saying no for no reason. So there's a reason behind it.
Right.
So then the conversation is all about, cool, what is the reason behind it?
Gotcha.
And then once we start understanding that, we can go, actually, can we work this no out?
Sure.
You know, because if there's a no, that means there's a reason for it. It's not like people don't say no for no reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. So, but what it is when people say no, because it doesn't add substance to why that no is said, people just stop having a conversation. But if I can actually ask the right questions and find out what the no is, then we can go, actually, and in the book in itself, so I'm not going to say this is the best way to do it, but in the book in itself, the guy talks about, then you let them work that no out themselves, basically through asking questions and helping them understand where the no came from. And then rather than making this your problem, you basically let them solve their own problem.
Gotcha. Fair enough. So actually it's sort of getting to the root of what that no is and then trying to find a way to maybe change. Well,
it's not about finding a way. It's about letting them find a way.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because it has to come from them. If they said no, then they have to work it out.
Gotcha.
You know, we can't work it out for them.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah.
We can't do that. No, fair.
Yeah. Maybe one more thing we can touch on, which is I know you mentioned passion when we spoke about what we're going to be talking about. So what does passion? You kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but what does passion mean to you, and where do you want to take your passion?
Yeah, so I always ask that question to like all my guests on my podcast, and it's the answers that they bring is super interesting, and sometimes I apply some of their answers to how I interpret passion. So how I interpret passion is like it's a deep love for something, and you can have many passions, you can have many deep things that you love about. I feel, I have that passion for communication, for example, because I love to do what I do, as I said, to empower other people. And the way I communicate is through different outlets. It's like through podcasting, it's through writing. Like those are two things that I feel like I love the most, from that. So it's like the main passion is the communication, but then there's like the sub elements of that passion, which is the podcast and the communication. So for me, how I best describe it is it's a deep love for something, but it's also sometimes a way to sort of not just empower you, but it's also to empower others as well. Because I feel like sometimes people have a passion for something, but it only affects them. Whereas I feel like a real passion is to help others as well. Because I think all of us have that innate ability to help others, but yet for some reason we don't do it. And I feel like with my passion, I want to try and do that. It's not just to make me feel like this sense of like love and appreciation, but it's also to like help others through it. That's how I sort of best define it.
No, I think that's really cool. I've been playing around with this idea as well. It's like, can someone be selfish and still basically help other people at the same time? Yes. The answer is yes. Yeah. Because it's interesting because like I think we live in a world where like if someone goes like, oh, actually if they're there to benefit themselves, it means it won't benefit other people, which is kind of wrong because I can be doing something for selfish reasons, which is going to benefit me, but then also impact and benefit other people.
Intention, man. All intention.
Yeah.
And like we've been living in a world where people keep saying that's impossible. But actually, like when I flipped the perspective, I was like, actually that's entirely possible.
It's like you want to make money for yourself, but it's like creating a service, for example, right? You want to create a service which ultimately you want to make money out of, but yet that service is going to benefit others, right?
Yeah.
So it's complete. I think
depending on what the service is.
Yeah, it does. If it's like selling weapons, maybe not.
Yeah.
or if it's like corruption or whatever.
Selling alcohol.
Alcohol, drugs, all that stuff. Right? It does. Yeah, no, it does depend on that. I think definitely. But how do you define passion?
How do I define passion? How would I define it actually? I like what it's about deep love for something.
Yeah.
I think for me, passion is to do with authenticity. Because I think I can't be passionate about something if if it's not like authentic to me, or I can't be authentic towards that thing. So it has to come from a place of like, I can be myself and authentic towards what I'm doing. I think passion is just literally being engaged with something I'm authentic towards and I've got deep love for.
Yeah.
I like what I said about deep love, actually. That's a good way of describing it. Which is also like, it's interesting because like I started doing things from a place of love.
Yeah.
So like, even if I'm telling someone to fuck off, I'm like, there's a bit of love there, like fuck off with love. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, why can't I do that? You know, why can't I?
Well, the thing is, you do need to say to some people to fuck off sometimes. Yeah. Like, it's true. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's times where it's like sometimes the world or like people like can really piss you off, and like sometimes you do need to just say, like, some people want to like, oh yeah, but you can't just say politely fuck off, and like you have to like word it away. It's like, no, there's times where sometimes I just want to say to people like fuck off, generally, but then you don't want to be rude. Like, you don't want to be that, but then people are like, well, but it's like, no, sometimes, and it is true, sometimes it's like, because it can sometimes, like with the love aspect, it sort of protects yourself, doesn't it? You know, because sometimes people can get too much. It drains your energy and drains who you are. Yeah. And sometimes you need to tell someone to fuck off because it comes out of love, because it's like, look, I love myself. And maybe that person is also just being an idiot. And sometimes you need to tell them to fuck off. And then they learn from that. So it's all love, you know, from that, in that sense. So.
No, that makes perfect sense. So is there anything you want to promote?
Well, I just want to say, like, straight up, like, thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. I really appreciate it. I mean, this
into your podcast. No, that's the thing. It's everyone's podcast.
True.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the idea we're playing around with. You know, that this is everyone's podcast.
Everyone's podcast. No, I might actually take that idea then on my end. But no, I just want to say, like, massive thank you for, you know, allowing me to, you know, speak about my sort of my passion and to open up this conversation. I think I really appreciate it. I mean, in terms of promoting, you know, you can, in terms of like my Instagram, it's like Hamish, so HAMISH _ Hallett, HALLETT. You can find out all the things that I promote in terms of like educating people on like auditory processing disorder. You can see the clips of the podcast that I do in Pursuit of Passion, which you can find on all listening platforms. And yeah, got loads of seasons for that coming up as well, so it should be interesting. So yeah.
I love the name as well, In Pursuit of Passion.
Oh, thank you, man.
In Pursuit of Deep Love.
Exactly.
Or something.
Purpose and, you know, finding that sort of one thing, one gift that, you know, I think that's one thing as well, like, I love about the sort of the name of it. It's not just, it's a continuous journey to find what you love, I feel, or what you love in terms of multiple things as well, because I feel like, because that was our idea I was playing with. It's like, can people just have one passion, that's it? Whereas now, actually, I disagree and think people can have many things that they love. And I think the in pursuit part sort of reflects it, because you can pursue multiple things, not just like one. You know.
And sometimes maybe like the things that we love are trying to find us.
Yeah, because sometimes that's another idea I was contemplating with. It's like, is passion within us, or is it outside of us? Do we need to seek the passion, or is the passion in us the whole time? Right, because I've had guests where, I'll take one guy, for example, this guy called John Watts, who was a chef. He found his passion whilst he was in prison, right? And the question I wish I maybe asked him was like, was that passion always within you, or did the experience of being in prison, the Duke of Edinburgh Ball, did that ignite the passion that was out of you? Right? That was something I wished I sort of asked, or like...
You can ask him today.
I could actually message him. I genuinely could just message him, right?
You could ask him.
Exactly, right? I could just message him, be like, you know, that, or like other people that, you know.
No, that'd be cool. Like, just be like, hey, like, I was just thinking about this.
Yeah, this is the thing. I could have, you know, generally, that is something I could have maybe, like, I could do generally. Yeah. So I'll go on that.
Yeah, drop him a message, man.
In that sense, man.
And the question we ask every single person, I don't know if you know what it is, but
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. So, when you get a chance to say something to 7.8 billion people, technically the whole world, me and Aladdin go back and forth all the time.
There?
Yeah. What would you tell them?
God, what a question. What do I say? Keep pursuing your passion. Keep pursuing what you love. If there's a feeling inside of you that you just love, keep pursuing it. You know, despite like the hurdles you may face, despite, you know, the problems that come with it, pursue it. as much as you can. That's what I would say.
Love that.
Nice.
On that note, nothing but gratitude. It's beautiful to connect with you, and yeah, just a start of a new connection, man.
I know, exactly, man. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Massive.